Hi, and welcome to MCTV's Let's Talk. I'm Mike Stanzillis, Vice President of Membership and Government Affairs for the Morris County Chamber of Commerce. And today we have with us Jack Flood. So Jack is the Vice President of Operations and one of the founding principals of Spatial Data Logic, otherwise known as SDL. For the past 23 years, he's helped 190 municipalities in the state of New Jersey streamline and automate workflows, increase visibility across departments, and provide online services for residents through the adoption of municipal management software. So, hey, Jack, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you for being here.
It's great to have you here. So 190 municipalities out of 565 municipalities in New Jersey. Jack, that is huge. And I'll tell you, that's 565 little silos, little fiefdoms, little kingdoms, whatever you want to call them. And some of them are really rather advanced with their technology, and some of them are like living dinosaurs, and there's everything in between. And that doesn't, I don't mean to denigrate those that are sort of back in time with technology, because I'm certain they do a fine job servicing their communities. But clearly, there's a lot of opportunity here in New Jersey to help the residents, the end users. So what are some of the hurdles you see when it comes to technology adoption by New Jersey municipalities?
Well, like you said, Mike, every town is a little different, but a lot of them are the same. We have one client that always comes to mind when we talk about the differentiation of clients. You know, they made the analogy that every town is like a snowflake. They all have a different version of them out there. They all look the same from afar, but when you get up close, they're all very different. And I think a lot of towns do feel they have a uniqueness, especially in the state of New Jersey, and the independence that's associated with a lot of the towns, even the counties, even up to the state level in a lot of ways. One of the challenges, or the challenges that we find in a lot of these cases, is everybody thinks they're a little unique, but once you find that similar item, that they actually all do building permits the same, and they all think about applications, and they all have similar complaints, that's where we can build our solutions for the masses. And we've been able to do that over the last 20 some odd years, finding that common thread. What we like to use is the word of threes. We like to find 3 common items out of 3 common towns that then we'll start developing technology for.
So that's pretty great. And, you know, I do agree with you that the towns do have a lot of similarities when it comes to process, right? But clearly we do have these great small town, mid-sized and large town feels here. That's what makes New Jersey great. I've lived in a lot of other states and traveled the whole country. I think this is really one of the unique, and it's a great attraction of New Jersey, is all this variety here. But clearly, you know, getting towns integrated in technology is a real challenge. So you're one of the early adapters of this. Definitely. I mean, you go back 23 years, and there had to have been, you know, 23 years ago, some real technological challenges. You know, anyone come to mind that was really a tough one to get the ball rolling with?
Even to this day, we have some of the same challenges that when 25 years ago, when we first started designing software, one of the biggest challenges we ran into in the early 2000s was the mouse. We actually, a lot of folks were used to DOS-based programs, and using a mouse to click and actually enter stuff was brand new. You know, it was in several cases that we spent more time in our training on actually using the mouse than we actually did on using the software. But the funny part about that, though, is once they got comfortable with that, once they saw that change wasn't really as big of a hurdle, and the anxiety and everything else gets out of the way, then they're open to learning, they're open to something new, and the adoption picks up fairly quickly out of that.
That is hilarious. You know, I would have never thought of that. Using the mouse was a big hurdle. But again, you look at DOS-based systems, you look at what happened just recently during the COVID pandemic, and the Department of Labor had to go and find people that can program COBOL. And COBOL is a programming language from a technological standpoint that's like Sanskrit now. You know, so again, that's pretty funny story, finding those, training people on how to use a mouse, what we take for granted now in this day and age. So How can technology improve the local governments, those local municipalities, both internally, but also externally, the end users? Those are the residents, right? How can this help them?
Uh, Mike, there's been a big push or a whole item of open government. This concept of citizens wanting to get complete access to everything that is going on in their town, in their permit, in their complaints, in their elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
And that push has really come fairly strong in technology now. Technology has become the answer to the ever-ending Oprah requests, the ability to, when somebody puts in an inspection or somebody has a violation issued, it's automatically available online for everybody to see. It's available for that mayor to field that question about it. It's available for your neighbors to see what's going on, and perhaps in some of those cases put them at ease as to things are being addressed by their local government.
Yeah, I think you're really talking a lot about transparency in government. So Oprah, for those of our audience that don't know what that is, that's the Open Public Records Act. And that means that people can request any kind of document that is a public document from their municipality. And sometimes there are time frames to get those back, but it's a cumbersome and expensive process. And obviously you found a way to make that a technological advancement in that, and you guys automate that a little bit, Jack. How does that work? If I have an Oprah request, normally it has to go through a manual process at a local municipality.
It is, and we've automated that entire process of the Oprah request.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've actually convinced a lot of towns to do is just put their data online through the concept of somebody fills out a piece of paper for a permit, and then it gets processed, and then they go through reviews, and then they're going to issue that permit, and eventually they're going to build or do something and get these inspections done. All of those processes now we have available online, and many of our towns have accessed and opened that completely up to anybody that wants to look at that information and see what it is and when it is. So they don't have to go in and request the information. They just log on to their citizen portal for the town and see that information anytime they want, anywhere they want. It's the banking 24/7 concept that a lot of citizens have gotten used to over the last 10 years is finally coming to government. So.
Wow, I love that term, citizen portal.
Mm.
And again, you really made a great analogy. We've become so used to technology and everything we do, banking, now we can get it in our municipality through the citizen portal. So you talked about sort of this data that's so readily available to people. Some towns are doing it. Typically people need Oprah requests. There's a lot of redaction that goes on. Do you find any issues with revealing sensitive or confidential information, or is it pretty much the redaction process doesn't take place?
When you're dealing with paper documents and scans and things that are sensitive data in nature, what we've done is automate that so that those fields or those records or that information never shows up on their citizen portals. So things like social security numbers or phone numbers or other areas. We have several towns that don't even like to put the names of the residents up. We actually redact, put the little dots in front of their last names.
Wow.
Even though there's a number of other sites that have it available, and now you're seeing more and more of this information being available in other sources, we find that automating the technology so that the information as it's coming in is automatically being put online in a redacted version to answer those questions for anybody to see it without having to go through the paper process and the redaction process that happens in the Oprah side of things right now. And in
That's great.
particularly in a lot of our towns, that number of Oprah requests has ballooned. We're seeing in some cases over the last 5-10 years, 10, 20, 30 times more number of requests for all information that then requires dedicated resources of people in the town to actually collate it and put it together. And if you don't start automating, it's gonna get behind you, and you're never gonna be able to catch up.
So you touched on something really important, and that is the resources that it takes to do all this stuff manually. Are you looking at this as a way to also save taxpayers money by automating these processes?
I think in a lot of these clerical level positions that have to be put in place to deal in the world of paper.
Hmm.
If you are not automating or thinking about automating at this time, you're going to perpetuate the concept and the costs associated with that. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with something like Oprah requests, the volume is going up and up and up. The only
Hmm.
way you can deal with that is either hire more people or automate the process. So our feeling is automate the process is going to save you time and money. And honestly, putting those employees to the work that needs to be done, where it needs the personal touch or the hand holding that goes on, as opposed to something that an Oprah request might be going through papers and giving copies of information to a lawyer or to a citizen. So
That's great. What are some simple first steps that municipalities can take to help them advance their technological prowess? What's going on in their offices? How can they make that happen? We know there's a lot of issues with people who have been entrenched in their jobs, governing bodies. What are some first steps that they can take?
I think the first step is really acknowledging the fact that they want to change.
Hmm.
Change management for anybody in life, in person, and anything is always the biggest hurdle you're going to have. So the concept of using a software package, and even to this day, we are still converting many departments over that are strictly paper and are going in for the first time using an automated system like our software. And
Hmm.
that's a challenge. You're going to get people that right out of the box are going to say, oh, it's so much easier if I just filled out this form and I put it over in that file folder over there. Until we get to that question of, well, how are you organizing it? And do you know it's in there? Or do you even have
Yeah,
a list somewhere on what's there? And what happens when people want to see a copy of it?
yeah.
I think the liability and the intense need for all information to be available to anyone at any time as quickly as possible has kind of forced that attitude to the past. And in some cases, they're scared of what's there, of what's been maybe written down over in the past into some of these archives of data and scanning and bringing in. And then obviously getting used to using a computer. Although that, over the last 25 years, getting people to use the computer was a difficult scenario for the first 10, 15 years of it.
Hmm.
Now it's getting them to change from whatever way they're doing it, either with a spreadsheet or other
Yeah.
common applications into ours. So.
It's hard to believe we're having this conversation in 2020, using the words getting people used to using a computer. It really is amazing. And it just goes to show you how municipalities and the governments, it can be so siloed in their own words, in their own worlds, pardon me. Um, one of the things I'm sure that you hate hearing, of course, is we've always done it that way. And you'd mentioned that, change management truly takes leadership to do that. So, I guess you have to get in front of those leaders and get them to buy into this process.
When we deal with towns, we look at three different folks that we have to win over. There's
Mm.
your mayors and council members that, that they're looking at it from a top level and representing the citizens in a lot of those cases. There's your managers that are in between, your business managers, your department managers that, need to report and need to keep an eye on things. And then there's that one key person in every department that is the one that knows it all and has it all. And in some cases is the encyclopedia of everything that goes on in that department. And getting all three of those parties on board for any one department or town to go forward, that's the key to a successful deployment for us. And that's the key to them getting the most out of this. I
Hmm.
think another side of that I like to talk about when I'll do a presentation to mayor and council on them looking into investing into using our solution is I refer to what we have as a big shiny backhoe. And it's going to be driven right into the town hall and it's going to sit there. And if you don't decide you want to have your employees get in there and use it, it's going to sit there and collect dust and it's not going to really do anything. So
Hmm.
everybody needs to be a part of it. The top end needs to say that we want this. The managers need to support the folks that want to use it. And then it's the end users themselves that need to start, getting on the bike and riding it as opposed to complaining or maybe saying that they don't want to for whatever reason it might be.
Well, that's fantastic, Jack. So I really want to thank you for being here today. Jack Flood of Spatial Data Logic, clearly a change agent here in New Jersey. For those of you that don't know it, the 190 municipalities that he has been able to help, that has really, I think, done a lot to move our state forward. So Jack, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to our chamber members for all of your support. If you'd like to do a Let's Talk interview with me, just reach out to me, mike@morrischamber.org. And Jack, any parting words?
Just love everything that the chamber does. I think I've said it several times. The Morris County Chamber of Commerce really is above and beyond in what it's doing in technology and assistance to towns and all of the other areas and business and everything else. And we're proud and happy to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting us, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. So.
Well, we're really blessed to have you part of it. So thank you, Jack, and thank you to our Morris County Chamber of Commerce members.